Yo, what's going on, guys? We have a brand new episode of Buy or Bust today. Today, we're going to be talking about the brand new Series 5 card, Diamondback, that is coming out on Tuesday. We're going to give you guys 3 decks for Diamondback, go through her entire mechanics, some counters, some synergies, as well as the good and the bad. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Diamondback is the brand new Series 5 card that is a 3-powered, 3-cost card with the ability Ongoing. Enemy cards here afflicted with negative power have an additional -2 power. So this is like an affliction, deck's best dream over here. You're already afflicting them with negative power, whether it's a Man-Thing with -2, a US Agent with -3. Diamondback stacks on top of that an additional -2 to potentially get -4 in that lane, -5 in that lane. With a Hazmat, that would be -3 in that lane. This card's got a lot of potential, but let's go ahead and talk about some of the key synergies for this card and counters as well. So first and foremost, one of the key synergies we were talking about was Man-Thing. Man-Thing has the ongoing text, afflict -2 power to 1, 2, and 3 cost cards in this location. Pair that with your Diamondback, that is a -4 power afflicted to all of those cards as well. It does also hit Diamondback, but Diamondback only afflicts negative power onto your opponent's card, does not afflict them onto your cards, so keep that in mind. So it does really synergize well there. Of course, with Hazmat, like we were saying too, Hazmat of course deals -1 power across the entire board, so it doesn't matter which lane you were to play your Diamondback on, you'd be able to get that extra benefit with the afflicted power from Hazmat there. And of course, you're playing Affliction. Ajax just goes hand in hand with this as well, because any card that is afflicted with negative power on your side of the board or your opponent's side of the board does give Ajax additional power. Also, some of the counters, especially you're going to be seeing this week, is Luke Cage. This week is going to be a Luke Cage-filled week. So you're probably not going to have any crazy Diamondback value probably this week because everyone's going to be running Luke Cage, should be able to counter the Diamondback synergy. Laufey is also going to be coming out this week, so you're also going to be seeing a lot of Luke Cage there as well because of the new game mode, the Sanctum Sanctorum. So this card is just going to be incredibly popular, so just keep that in mind when you go into your games. Of course, Red Guardian is a targeted card too. This card only has 3 power, talking about Diamondback here, so Red Guardian will also be able to target that. Of course, depending on what other lower powered cards you might have in that location, maybe if you play it into a Hazmat lane, then it'll hit the Hazmat instead of the Diamondback. But of course, we shall see. You're probably using Red Guardian in your own list to afflict this Luke Cage, of course, so you can actually be able to benefit. But this is going to be a very common card. And then Enchantress, negates all of the ongoing cards in said location, and Diamondback is an ongoing card. Rogue would be another card you might be seeing a lot of, but I think it's probably time for Enchantress to rise up. I'm going to be seeing probably a lot more Sarah control. I feel like we're already seeing a lot since Sarah did get buffed in the most recent OTA, so wouldn't be surprised if you do see a lot of Enchantress going into this week as well. But let's go ahead and talk about the good and the bad for this card. So first off, we're talking about the good. One of the main things, it's a great card for Affliction like we've been talking about already. It just gets plugged into that list. You're going to probably find different ways to fine-tune said list, but it's just going to be like the bread and butter. You're going to be using this to get that additional benefit. It's also a 3-cost card, so you can play this on curve, which means it is going to be good for good old Surfer. So you're going to get some Surfer value, some Toxic Surfer. It gets a brand new card you'll be able to see as well. And then, of course, there are plenty of locations that do add the benefits of Affliction, so you don't even necessarily have to have Affliction enabler, but cards do have to be afflicted, of course, for this card to get its benefit. And it's pretty flexible. Like I said, you could do Surfer, you could do High Evo maybe, some Toxic stuff. Like, I think that's going to be the bread and butter is the Toxic stuff. But when you go to the bad over here, you do have to have afflicted power in this lane for this ongoing to go off, or else it's just a 3/3. It's a single lane ability, even at the 3-cost slot. So, of course, you can only use it in one lane. You could copy the ability with a Mystique. Moonstone also on top of this card does give you that additional benefit as well. But it is a single lane ability. It's a bad Spotlight week. They put good cards in bad Spotlight weeks. We'll talk about that later in the video as well. But if you are opening, it's probably maybe not the best week overall to open unless you're not owning the cards. But like I said, we'll talk about that later. And Luke Cage is very popular. And especially this week, you're going to see a lot of Luke Cage, not just because of Diamondback, but also because of Laufey. Laufey is going to be, this kind of similar. It's, an on-reveal 4/5 that has the ability steal 1 power from each card here. It includes your side of the board and your opponent's side of the board. So potentially your Laufey can get up to at least 412, and then of course that with the Affliction kind of shenanigans, it's a 416. If your opponent has 4 cards there, then you had Diamondback on top. But you know that's a topic for another time. But it's going to be a very popular Luke Cage week. Just keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about the floor and the ceiling for this card, in the best case scenario, your ceiling here is your play down curve or late game where cards have already been afflicted, or you play it out before cards have been afflicted. It's a 3/3 plus whatever power is afflicted in that lane, plus the additional -2 afflicted power from the ongoing ability of Diamondback. So you have that going for you. Or if you have no cards afflicted on the War's End, the floor here, it's just a 3/3. Same with Luke Cage on the board. You really can't do anything. It's just a 3/3 sitting there. But overall, I think this card's going to be pretty interesting. We do have 3 decks that we're going to jump into right now. The very first deck I was thinking of is Spitting Venom. So this is going to be with the also new card, Laufey. So we're probably not going to be able to play this on release for sure. But this is getting a lot of the, you know, affliction power, some of these stolen cards, like not stolen card, but stolen power with Silver Sable. You have your Hazmat, US Agent, you have Red Guardian. A card hit by Red Guardian also is afflicted, so Diamondback would afflict another -2, so that'd be a -4 kind of transaction in a way. Rocket and Groot cards are cards that get afflicted because their power is stolen. Laufey cards are afflicted because their power is stolen. Malekith to enable some of these other probably potential 2-drops. You can also enable your Diamondback onto that lane with Malekith as well. Man-Thing is affliction power, and then Ajax gets the power from affliction cards. Next, of course, we have Toxic Surfer, so it's kind of the old school Surfer shell that you've seen a lot of, just Toxic Surfer ongoing. It was a couple seasons ago. I know Gregor was playing a lot of it too, made it pretty popular itself. But you're using Diamondback now, and you could potentially use Diamondback with Mystique, and then do your Hazmat stuff, so you can have 2 different lanes that get additional power from the Affliction there, which could be kind of crazy. You also have, you know, Magic to extend turns, just to get a lot of Surfer stuff. You have your Odin. So, like, there's a couple different ways you could run through this list, whether it is going into the full Affliction side, or if it is just going into the Surfer side. This deck can get crazy, and I think Diamondback is a good addition there. I think the prominent list you're might going to be seeing is some Toxic Sarah. You have Zabu in this list to enable your Malekith, Anti-Venom, and your Man-Thing to be cheaper. If they are afflicted or, you know, affected by Zabu as well, they go to 3 cost. With Sarah, they became 2 cost. So you're able to kind of enable yourself there. You're using Shadow King before you do any Hazmat shenanigans, because if you Shadow King after Hazmat, it resets the Affliction, so you're not going to get that Affliction benefit there. But you have Diamondback, you have, you know, US Agent, you have Hazmat, you have Man-Thing. This doesn't have Laufey in its list because I was thinking, you know, Laufey's not entirely out just yet. So you're having this as kind of an alternate until you get Laufey, because Laufey is just going to be incredible for this card. With that in mind, though, we got to talk about the Spotlight Week, guys. So this is the Spotlight Week. So we have a Series 5 card with Diamondback. We have Nimrod at Series 4, and we have Phoenix Force at Series 4. Of course, this is all, you know, recorded right before we know anything about series drops as well. So this is where these cards are standing at the time of recording this video. They could have changed potentially with series drops, which also makes this Spotlight Week a little bit more interesting when it goes to, will you actually open knowing these cards are going to be dropping down in series? I do think it's going to be interesting because, you know, Diamondback is 6K, you know, Nimrod's 3K, Phoenix Force is 3K. When it comes to these cards overall, Nimrod and Phoenix Force, you can play in the same list. It's going to be like a Phoenix Force Destroy, more on the Destroy side of enabling in case you don't get the Phoenix Force line there. These cards don't play with Diamondback. Like, they aren't Diamondback cards, so they kind of feels like they've thrown into this list. Nimrod is kind of predictable in the sense where your opponent kind of can guesstimate where power is going to be going, or if they just want to Elia if you're Nimrod lane, so you can't destroy anything there, which kind of stinks in that sense. Phoenix Force is a little bit more flexible in the sense, like, there's so many different ways you can play Phoenix Force. That's probably why this is a higher rating I have for flexibility and strength, because if you look at the way Jet plays Phoenix Force, he puts it in any sort of kind of shell and just is able to maximize Phoenix Force besides just the movement with Human Torch and multiple man kind of thing. So that's that. I mean, if you're missing the cards, it's a pretty good week to open if you're missing the cards, but I wouldn't really suggest opening Spotlights per se if you have these cards, just because I feel like it's a weaker week for the old cards. The new card, I really like the new card. I'll say that before we jump into full breakdown of it. It just may be more of a token week, in my opinion, even though I love the Nimrod variant. The Phoenix Force variant is probably going to be great animated. So if you love the variants, I think those are great. The Diamondback variant, not really sold on my Diamondback variant. Not really going to say I'm not a huge fan of that. But when we do talk about Diamondback, so we're going to talk about what I'm seeing from the community and then my own ranking here. So this is what I've seen with the community here. They do think she's going to be strong. Of course, Luke Cage is going to be a thing. Maybe not the most flexible is what people are thinking. You're just going to use it in, Affliction. You're going to use it with, Ajax. You might use it with high Evo. I do think that this card probably won't get really that much adjusted. I can understand, and I think it's all that flexible, but I think it's got more potential than we think. Yes, it does have to have those enablers to get the Affliction off. I think it's going to be very strong the following weeks after her release. And I do think Toxic Surfer is going to be a good home. I do think High Evo is going to be in a good spot. I mean, you already have Scorpion that just got a buff recently in the OTA, so I can see that also being a pretty good combo card with Diamondback. It doesn't just have to be, I have a Man-Thing here, I have a US Agent in this lane, I need to play Diamondback here. It could be like, these cards have had the power stolen with a Rocket and Groot, or like a Silver Sable, or a Cyclops, and I can just play Diamondback additionally on this lane to just kind of solidify that I'm winning this lane. It works with Moonstone because the Moonstone ongoing also works with this card. I just think this card's got a lot of potential, and it's not just gonna be landlocked in just those typical kind of Affliction shells. It's gonna have power elsewhere, so I'm pretty high on this card. That's why it's a buy for me. I think you buy with tokens if you are already having Nimrod and you already have, Phoenix Force. I think you could open maybe if you do not have those cards, even though I'd probably save your keys for other weeks, especially later weeks in March or early weeks in March. I think March is going to just have better cards to open for if you want to spend Spotlight keys. But I do think this card is a buy. It's going to be a good card. Just not the first week, but it will be a good card. But I do want to say, as always, with our final notes here, it's always a great strategy to wait a couple days before you open. We do have an OTA this week that Diamondback does come out, so OTA could shake things up. So just keep that in mind. Think also of these series drops that we might be having too as well, or that we are going to be having within the first week of March with a new patch. So keep those in mind in case potentially Nimrod and Phoenix Force are dropped in series. I'm often wrong about cards. The community's often wrong about cards. Well, I'd like to say I'm not really often wrong about cards. But, sometimes cards just don't work out the way we think. Or, we're way too either opinionated about a card thinking it's going to be bad and ends up being good. Or we think it's going to be really good, but it ends up being horrible. So just keep that in mind. Good cards do get nerfed and bad cards do get buffed. So it could be that this card is too good. Maybe it gets nerfed. Or maybe it's not performing the way they want to, so it gets buffed. When Ajax came out, he was originally data mined at a 4-cost card, and we thought this card was going to be meh, and then they made him a 5-cost, and we thought this card's going to be so bad. And look at Ajax now, and now he's getting all these enabling cards. So just keep that in mind when it comes to buying these cards. Spend the resources the way you want to spend your resources. Get the cards that you want to play. At the end of the day, this boils down to your own enjoyment, what's going to bring you the most fun in this game, and totally pour into that. We're playing video games for fun, guys. Surely just keep that in mind. But as always, I really do appreciate you guys hanging out and watching this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless, and Tucker out.